In any narrative, you're inevitably going to use the preterite and the imperfect to tell your story. For English native speakers, it can be very difficult to understand the difference between these. There are descriptions of rules for when to use the imperfect or preterite, but for me, these have only provided a useful starting point, and they shy away from really helping to understand the meaning of the imperfect and the preterite. Every rule seems to have so many exceptions that at some point they just fall apart. In this lesson, we're going to dive into the meaning of the imperfect and the preterite. We won't go into too much detail on the conjugations, as you can easily check these in a reference book. It's important to understand that the preterite and imperfect are not two different tenses, rather they are two different aspects of the past tense. So, what is an aspect? The aspect describes either the nature of the event, is it point-like or recurring, and it also describes the part of the event which is being depicted. Is it something ongoing, or is it something that's completed or just started? This seems alien to us because in English we don't have different verb forms to do this. Consider the verb to run. In the simple past form, it's ran. I ran, you ran, he ran, she ran, etc. But saying she ran could have different meanings based on the rest of the phrase. For example, she heard a loud noise and ran. In this case, she ran indicates she started running. As she ran, she heard a loud noise. In this phrase, ran indicates was in the middle of running. I ran every weekend at university. In this third phrase, ran means a repeated action. So we have one verb and three different meanings here. In Spanish, they would use either the imperfect or the preterite to describe these phrases. So the first phrase would be escuchó un ruido fuerte y corrió. The second phrase, mientras corría, escuchó un ruido fuerte. And the third phrase, yo corría cada fin de semana cuando estaba en la universidad. We can represent these actions on a graph. When we talk about the past, we always refer to some point in the past. Linguists call this the recalled point, or RP for short. Let's visualize the imperfect. A las 7 corría. At 7 p.m. I was running. En la universidad corría cada fin de semana. At university, I ran every weekend. So what do we notice about these two usages? Both invoke a sense of being in the middle of something. So we could say that the imperfect is in the middle of. Let's take a few more visualizations. Ayer me caí. Yesterday I fell over. This indicates something that ended or culminated at this recalled point. I wouldn't say that I started to fall over, but I would refer to this as a completed event. A las 7 corrí. At 7 I ran. And a Spanish speaker would understand that to mean at 7 I began or broke out running. So we could say that the preterite indicates the beginning or the end of an event. Or put another way, something breaking out running, or completing falling over. There are still a couple more examples. Viví en España 2 años. Here we have an event that was completed and is now over and done with. Corrí todas las noches en la universidad. Hold on, what's going on with this last example? According to the rules, if we say todas las noches, shouldn't we use the imperfect? After all, this is a repeated action in the past, right? Well, when we said corría todas las noches in the imperfect, we're talking about the middle of a series of events that was fairly open-ended and continuing. It might be provided as the background for some other event. For example, corría todas las noches, pero Una noche vi algo extraño. With this example, the preterite indicates that this is something which is over and done with, and it doesn't act as the background for some other event. So we can see that the imperfect takes us to the middle of an event, and the preterite to the beginning or end. So how do we know if it's the beginning or the end of an event? Well, that depends on the verb itself. Let's take our example of caerse again, to fall over. Compare this to leer, to read. Reading is an ongoing state, whereas falling over is something that happens one time. In order to fall over again or continue falling over, you have to get back up again. You can't fall over for half an hour, but you can read a book for half an hour. So with me caí a las 8, I fell over at 8 o'clock, this indicates the end or the completion of falling over. However, leí a las 8 indicates the beginning of reading. A Spanish speaker would understand this to mean, at 8 o'clock I started reading, or I broke out into reading. In the next few lessons, we'll learn some time phrases to use with the past tense, and then look at some past tense patterns. How can we combine the preterite and the imperfect, and what are some of the subtle changes in meaning when we do? Also, what are some other ways that people use tenses to tell their story? We'll listen to some stories taken from real-life conversations, and dive into how they use tenses in their narratives. Along the way, we'll provide plenty of exercises and opportunities for you to build and practice your own narratives.